Why, hello there. It's Alena from Estimate Mastery, and today I'm going to talk all about how you can get an estimate paid and what roadblocks you might be encountering right now and how to overcome those roadblocks with the adjusters. So let's take a look at a completed estimate and what we can do to overcome those objections. So this is a live. I'll wait here for a couple moments, get some things up and running on the screen while people are joining. And thanks for joining me today. And if you're watching the replay, thank you so much for being there as well. Let me get this screen going for you all. We are going to take a look at the photos. I will run through the original statement of loss again so that you guys can, if you missed that, you can see that as well. And we'll start there actually as a recap. So this is a live file that we have from one of our members here at Estimate Mastery. We do have a formal training program. So everyone that goes to that program is able to have estimates written by us here at Estimate Mastery, and then we help you submit them. So we write the two estimates for you, and then we help you get them submitted and paid by the insurance company. So these are live files that came through via a current member, someone who just submitted these. And so a couple of things I'm going to point out on the original statement of loss, then I'll show you the supplement really quick, and then we'll get into how to overcome some of the objections that are going to be popping up when the person submits the estimate. I can tell you some things that are going to ping back as denials, almost instantaneously, and then how to overcome those objections. So let's start with the original statement of loss here. So it is a State Farm estimate. The thing I love about State Farm estimates is they give you the sample that shows you that they do pay overhead and profit. Guess what? It's right there on this sample estimate. So I'll go into how to leverage this if you have a State Farm estimate a little bit later on when we get to talking about the objection to O&P. But you can see here they did not pay overhead and profit on this estimate, but they did have a $21,027 replacement cost value. We took the original statement of loss, we rewrote it up in Xactimate. One more thing, sorry. They did have a May 2024 price list assigned to theirs. So on our supplement estimate that we wrote up, we did update the pricing. I guess we wrote this in January. We could update it to April's pricing or whenever you're watching this video. You always want to reprice to the date that the repair or replacement is happening. So if you're not replacing the roof till June 2025, you'll want to reprice it. And of course, you can't do that now, but whenever you run the job, whenever you complete the job, you'll want to reprice the estimate to see if there's any major changes. If you have a major storm in your area, sometimes your estimate can go up by thousands. Sometimes it'll go up by $1. So that's the game of supplementing. You decide which dollars you want to choose to chase. For right now, it's so hard to get a hold of adjusters. There are a few things that I will let slide on an adjuster's estimate. That's probably, $50 to $100 that I might have chased and brought up in the past. So you have to make those decisions for yourself. It's a very nuanced game, but the thing you want to look at when you're supplementing is where am I profitable? And, what's that ceiling that I need to hit? So for this job, like I said, the original statement of loss was at $21,000. I know to get to be profitability, maybe I need to be at 26.5 on this one. So I have a goal in mind, I have a number, and I know what I want to hit. And so you're going to want to start to educate yourself on that. Where is your profit lie? How much do your labors, material, all inclusive, overhead, what is that costing you? And then you're going to want to calculate profit on top of that. So usually, depending on your area, a price per square doesn't get you there. You'll want to start tracking the job costs and, adding a certain amount of profit on top of that. That's a whole other training I can do at some point in time, maybe later in the year, but there's a way to calculate all of that. Won't go into that today, but I want to give you that thought that that's what we're doing when we supplement is we have a number that we want to hit in mind, and that's the goal. If we go over that number, great. That helps make up for what, Allstate didn't pay on my last job, right? It's just the way the cookie crumbles. Sometimes they'll pay a little bit more than profitability. Sometimes it'll be a little bit under profitability. Sometimes you're right there in the sweet spot. Just depends on how far you can get with the adjuster. So yeah. Good to see you guys here live with me. I see you, Oscar. Yeah, nice to catch you. Belinda's here as well. Good to see you. Yep. I'll go over that, Belinda, about how they'll only pay for the date of loss, excuse me. And then, yeah, Oscar, I can't tell you profitability. Usually you want to be anywhere from 25 to 40% profit over and above all of your expenses, including overhead. Depends on where you are in the country and all of that. So I will do a deep dive at some point. I have a calculator I can share with you guys at some point too. So yeah, only $500 difference, Belinda. Yeah, that's the decisions you need to make as a supplementer, as your company. You guys should all come to a meeting of the minds. You know, what do we go after? We draw out the file, and what do we just say? You know what? I'm going to close this. We're good. We're profitable. You'll find your life is a lot easier. Also, you'll stop wasting so much time holding open a file for 6 months for $500, because that is a long diminishing, that's a poor diminishing law of returns at that point. So let's look at the supplement estimate. We did go ahead and update the labor and material pricing for April. When I rewrote this, actually that's an error on Alena's part. Hey, we got to catch this trainer, get her to update her pricing. I can see that I need to apply the correct price list here, but we'll roll through with what we have just as an example. I did recreate this so I could scrub all of my members' info off of the original. All of that being said, I did have some discrepancies of the actual material used. So when you look at the photos, and y'all, if there's one takeaway you get from watching me or watching this back today, documentation is key to overcoming objections, and approach your files as if you had to represent them in court, meaning supply them all of the documentation and evidence to prove unequivocally that either this existed, this did not exist, but it's required by code, this was damaged, this wasn't damaged, and then after we were done with the job, consequential damages caused the flashing to be damaged. All of that is so vital to be shown visually, and then through documentation such as IRC code, manufacturer specifications, OSHA documentation, also pricing at verisk.com will help fill you in on some of those things, like when they say they won't pay waste on steep charge. I go ask Verisk, what's your intention behind separating out the shingle removal and replacement with our waste and steep high charges? And they give me a nice blurb. That kind of stuff gets you really far with the adjuster. Are these silver bullets? No, but the more I can arm you with, an arrow, a hand grenade, and a tank, the better off you're going to be. And then, of course, again, that's what I started off this talk about it or with, is knowing that level of profitability that you want to get to, and just at the end of the day, knowing when it's time to say, we don't need to attack this. All right, so the original estimate here, as you can see in these photos, this is photos of the damage pre-repair. They are obviously laminate. The adjuster did write up for 3-tab. So that was the first thing that we caught on this estimate. And of course, that's going to be vastly different. Your hip and ridge also is going to be affected by that. So we asked for the correct laminate shingle material. That's why you'll see this line item in bold and the replacement line item in bold, as well as the starter course. They only paid for eaves. We needed rakes and eaves. And then of course, the correct ridge cap material. We were not going to hand cut 3-tab shingles to go on that laminate style roof. That would not be an appropriate application. We need pre-cut laminate style shingles to go back over the roof to bring the roof back to the condition before the loss. Everything that you see that isn't bold, we just accepted and said, yep, good, we're good to go on those. So that's the way that we write estimates here at Estimate Mastery. We teach anything that you want to draw attention to and you do not agree with, we bold. And then we also give them a line item as to why we want to chat about these line items. So everything that you have in your initial estimate should have all of the documentation, photos, etc. for the supplement items that you're asking for. So by documentation, I mean we need to go ahead and provide, the code that it corresponds, perhaps a manufacturer specification, something like the shingle manufacturer requires double starter. There's some high-end IR shingles that require double starter. That's not a code thing. That is a manufacturer's. Yes, I know it's recommendation, but there's ways to talk about that via code as well. So everything that you see bolded here is what we're asking for as the supplement. And we started at that, back to the summary, $21,027. We actually wrote the supplement estimate. There's a little bit of citing on here. We did ask for overhead and profit. We have the reprice to today's pricing, which is April 2025. If you were in June 2025, you want to reprice to that. And then replacement cost value came to 47. So we actually increased this by $26,000. And everything we added to this estimate was completely legitimate and reasonable. But one of the big jumps that you'll see is because they paid for the incorrect material to begin with. They had the 3 tab on their estimate when obviously in these photos, that was a laminate style shingle. So that right there is going to cause a big bump. And then you've got about $6,000 in overhead and profit, the 10 and 10 that you're seeing on the estimate as well. So let's cover a couple of these that I know are going to be immediate, like bounce back denials. First thing is going to be overhead and profit. That is a State Farm estimate. And as I said on the summary for State Farm, it shows they do pay overhead and profit, right? So they'll come back and they'll say, well, there just wasn't enough trades. It wasn't complex enough. You need 3 trades or more. So what the insurance companies love to do, and people who are trained by the insurance companies, I was one of them. I came into this world through a company called Adjuster Pro. I'll be forever grateful for them allowing me to learn how to train on Xactimate and teach adjusters for hurricane, wind, or tornado. And I used to be in Arlington, Texas, right across from the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. It was a really little strip mall that had their training facility, one of the training facilities that we would teach in. And I would go teach a 3-day Xactimate class, Xactimate 101, and I would say that you need 3 trades or more in order to get overhead and profit paid, because that's what I was told. It came from the remodel and real estate industry. I didn't deal with property insurance before that. I was never a contractor that had to do insurance related repairs. I went straight from being raised by a contractor, knowing how houses are put together. At 5 years old, I was holding a drywall pan for dad, to now we're in the world of insurance and I know how things are put together. So I understand in Xactimate, here's the components that we need, but I didn't know the actual rules behind a lot of it. I would just parrot what they told me to say. And, I would also say that, there was something about the waste factor that I got really wrong as well. And a contractor called me out in one of my classes, and it was really like, oh, that's how the real world works? Oh my goodness, I need to learn this better. So anyways, that's why we started Estimate Mastery, is so that I could teach contractors the right way to do this. And in that learning process, the 3 trades or more, the complexity and all of that is just a gray area they're trying to push you into, when there's actually definitions on Xactimate's or Verisk's white paper for overhead and profit. It does say that there is overhead and profit in the estimate for the subcontractor. The line items for labor, material, all that, they have a factor of a overhead and profit for the sub in those line items. But as soon as you add the general contractor, the person who's the umbrella, who's hiring all of the subs and coordinating that work, that is where they draw the line in the sand on that white paper. And they used to have another white paper called the roof pricing white paper. I don't think it's out there right now. It was pulled down, pushing to get it put back up. I haven't actually checked in on that in a while, but the roof pricing white paper said that roofing sales organizations are complex entities and they do hire out subs, therefore they are owed overhead and profit. Does an adjuster care about those two white papers? No, they don't care a whit. Guess who does care is your homeowner. So your homeowner has purchased a product where in underwriting, they allow for overhead and profit to be added to that underwriting evaluation. And so when they calculate how the premium is going to be paid out, they have to look at underwriting and say, okay, the house is worth X. What are going to be the expenses attributed to if the house, we had a total loss, or if we had any kind of damage. And that's, the premium is calculated off of a value. So if the person who purchases a product isn't enjoying the full benefits of that product via the insurance company pocketing the O&P that they should pay out, therefore, if you can get the homeowner, that's just a bunch of fancy language to say, if you get the homeowner on board and let them know that you as the restoration professional are their advocate, and then it's a common practice for insurance companies to underpay claims in the property insurance industry, that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, because most people have dealt with insurance, whether it be medical or auto related. And so, hey, I'm here to help you get paid every penny that should be paid out. And here's what common practice right now is they're going to try to pocket what's called overhead and profit on this estimate. It's not like going to Best Buy and saying, I want that TV, and it costing $1,000. Way insurance works is we break down everything. We use the same software as the insurance company. And then because I'm subbing out this work, by their rules, I'm allowed to add overhead and profit to the estimate. And your neighbor might be getting it paid because they have a different insurance company. But when I work with State Farm, they seem to always deny it if it's roofing, siding, gutters only. I'm just letting you know, Mr. Homeowner, that when I submit this estimate, the first thing they're going to say no to, and they'll probably call you and say, do you know what your contractor is charging for this roof? I wrote an estimate for $21,000 and they're charging $46,000. So Tom, homeowner, when that happens, hey, you can let them know they already messed up because they paid for the wrong shingle. I can show you visually how they already lost a lot of credibility because they didn't pay for the right shingle. So a lot of new adjusters in the industry, and I don't want to beat up on adjuster friends because I know a lot of people that are really good on the adjusting side of things and very fair. But my job is to help educate the contractors so you can educate your homeowners and be an advocate for them and let them know that there are rules, and I'm playing by the rules as a contractor. I've added the overhead and profit that is due, and it's actually, I don't want to get too far in the weeds. When they evaluate the home for the indemnification and underwriting and all that other fun big words, overhead and profit is factored into those costs. It's a very loud water bottle. So all of that being said, the more you get the homeowner on board and stress to the homeowner, not stress, that's not a good word, impart to the homeowner that the reason they hired you is because you're the restoration professional and you're going to coordinate those subs. You're going to make sure they're not peeing in the bushes. You're going to make sure that their property is well taken care of. You're going to make sure that the subs are well taken care of. You are there to make sure they don't let the dogs out of the yard or squish, your kid's bounce house or whatever is on your property. That's why you hire a restoration professional and don't just hire subs as a homeowner, so that I can coordinate the job for you and take care of you. So we actually have a homeowner letter that we've written. In fact, if you want to throw all that verbiage that I was just talking about into ChatGPT, I could write something very formal for you. But the homeowner is the one who will need to go ahead and submit that to the adjuster. They do need to be involved if you're going to go down that road, saying, I feel it's unfair and it's above my pay grade. That's why I hired a contractor, is so that I don't have to coordinate. And now you're not paying my guy for coordination. I feel like that's unfair. Show me in my policy where you do not pay for overhead and profit for the GC. And that really is the language. Now, do you as the contractor ever want to cite policy, interpret policy, or talk policy with the adjuster? No. But the homeowner can discuss the product they purchased all day long with that homeowner. So, yeah. All right, so that's the big one, is overhead and profit, because that's 20% of your estimate right there that they want to deny, right? And then you're going to get into the little, the weeds of flashings they don't want to pay for because they're not directly damaged by hail. Well, when I remove the shingle, consequential damage, that's the word, consequential damage. When I pull that nail out of that shingle, the flashing has been nailed through. Per IRC code, I'm not allowed to reuse that flashing. Okay, so you need to learn code and lean on code. And that brings me to, yeah, nice, Brenda. I would like to see him be out there and okay, right here. This is a big one. There's the 10% of adjusters that will just never pay. It is what it is. And so what I'm going to do is say, you know what? Since you're not going to pay my overhead and profit, and I had to make sure the subs didn't pee in the bushes, pick up all the trash, make sure that the dog didn't get laid out, make sure that everything went on, they didn't fall off the roof and kill themselves. Human life is pretty important. Let's get these other line items paid. Since you don't find me to be valuable, the line items speak for themselves, right? That's what I would lean on that, and I get a little crunchy with them. Anyways, there's a 10% of adjusters that just will not budge. Here in Salt Lake City, where I live, we were doing supplementing for a local company. There was a field adjuster for State Farm. No matter what case I made, no matter how much the homeowners leaned on him and threatened to take him to the Department of Insurance, he would never supplement. I'd wait 60 days. It would go inside the company to Team 92. I'd call them up. I would get everything paid. I just learned how to play the game. There's so many nuances to this. It's not black and white. And that's why I love talking about it, because there's so many just little levers that you can use to swing big doors if you are in certain scenarios. And there's, and again, I was explaining it this way. We've got our homeowner, lovely person, They have a contract with the insurance carrier, okay? Then we have our homeowner, and they have a contract or policyholder if you work commercial. Then there's us, the contractor. They have a contract with us. We're trying to go over the person who's in control and has the contract and who's purchased a product to talk to the adjuster out of necessity, because the homeowner shouldn't have to go through the rigmarole. But the more you can become an advocate for the homeowner and let them know, hey, I wrote this estimate up using the same software as the insurance company. I'm a restoration professional. I'm a licensed GC in Tennessee. Here's my license number. Here's how the insurance game is played. They're trying to protect their pocket, but I want you as the person who purchased this product, who purchased this premium, to get paid what you should on this job, because they shouldn't shortchange you. You've had, State Farm for 30 years. You've been paying your premium every single month or every single year. Sorry, insurance companies. Property insurance is paid yearly. And so therefore, if we can write this letter together and submit it to the adjuster, would you be open to that? I would love to advocate for you. So that's really getting them on board. And again, as much as you have 10% of the awful adjusters that just are so wrong that they take it as you're beating up their ego when you're not, you're just like, this is what is, this is what it costs. There's also 10% of homeowners that are just awful and won't help you as well. But most people are reasonable if in your sales presentation you say, I'm your advocate. I want to help you get paid for the product that you purchased. Here's how this is going to work. I may lean on you to submit a letter or call your agent if we get up against it with the adjuster. They can also request a reinspect. And if it gets really bad and you have a non-responsive adjuster, you can also request a new adjuster be assigned if it's not on a team. So, yep. There we go. Tim, gosh, I love you. One of the claims, it wouldn't budge on overhead profit. I think I could show these. Yes. All right. Wouldn't budge on O&P. I took it off, added a bid item for miscellaneous fees for the same amount, and they approved it right away. What's interesting about what Tim said here is that a lot of times, if the adjuster tries to send up their estimate with O&P on it through what's called exact analysis, it'll flag it and bounce it back down, and the adjuster cannot submit it for payment, get the check written, and close their file. So because they have these rules and what's called exact analysis, something us as contractors do not have to deal with, thank goodness, unless you're on a program work. Exact analysis can cause that estimate not to be submitted to go get paid for them to close their claim. And that's where they get real frustrated, because they literally cannot submit their estimate because there's rules inside policy, Allstate, State Farm, whatever, whoever you want to talk about, that they just will not let them submit that unless they have X amount of trades. Is that the way the policy is written? Probably not. Is that fair? No, but it's inside policy. I don't care. I would do something like what Tim just did. And when he made it a miscellaneous item and said job cost project management, I'm not sure, Tim, if you want to share with what you called that miscellaneous item, but that can allow the money. I don't care where the money comes from. The people to die on the hill of overhead and profit, be creative and try to find something else, but don't ever be fraudulent. We're never going to ask for temporary toilets that were never on the job. We're never going to ask for a generator that we never used. That's not what I'm saying. But on our estimates, what's interesting about exterior work versus interior, in fact, let me pull up exactly really quick and I'll show you this. On a room, get back to you guys. On a room, on an interior, they have what's called a final clean. So let's say we're painting, just hang in here with me for a second. Say we're doing drywall and doing the walls and ceilings. Then we're going to P&T, SP, private paint. Okay. After this, these are added. You can go to your supporting events, and I know it's probably really small on your screen, but you can see it says right here, labor assumption is based on an 8-hour a day with 5 minutes planning, 60 minutes total drive time, 20-minute breaks, 40 minutes setup and cleanup of tools and equipment, debris removal, and floor sweeping and vacuuming in immediate workspace. This is what's important. 40 minutes setup, cleanup of tools and equipment, debris removal, floor sweeping, or vacuuming in an immediate workspace, independent of any final cleaning at the end of the job, if warranted. And let me see if I can get it to show. There we go. Okay, so it has that for everything, even roofing. Okay, it includes, yes, you're right, it does. It includes debris removal. You're right. It includes us cleaning up the immediate workspace, but that's independent of any final cleaning at the end of the job. So when I go to the interior and I type in my final cleaning, I can usually get this paid most of the time if the adjuster knows what he's doing. If I show you the click for detail, it'll say here on a final cleaning for the interior, the labor for the supporting events within each line item, which I just showed you, that was the supporting events up here. The labor included here in the supporting events are intended to be inclusive of general cleanup performed by each trade for that activity and are not representative of any final cleaning at the end of the job that usually includes . Okay, so if they have a final clean for the interior, why don't they have a final clean for the exterior? Because when you go to the roofing portion of the supporting event, it has the same exact labor included for immediate cleanup. So that's what we do, is we ask for a final cleaning of the job on our exterior jobs because it's available for the interior. We just don't have a line item for it yet. That happens. They didn't have a line item for the second layer, third layer, fourth layer of felt for a long time. So that's some of the stuff that it's completely warranted, and I do my research and I'm able to back it up with my click for details. You can actually include your click for detail. Let me show you this really quick. I canceled that. I don't know why I did that. Or was I showing you the right screen? Amanda, will you let me know if you could see Xactimate when I did that? I probably didn't. Sorry, guys. I have two screens, and sometimes I get really there. Okay, where I was right here, supporting events. And this is the labor that I read. Yeah, sorry, Belinda. Oops. That's a user error. So here's the supporting events. It talks about the immediate debris removal, floor sweeping, vacuuming, immediate workspace. For RFG, it says debris removal, floor sweeping, vacuuming, immediate workspace, independent of any final cleaning. When you go over to the final clean for the interior, this is the click for detail that shows you the labor and the supporting events that I just showed you, intended to be inclusive of the general cleanup, but not the final cleaning. So on our estimate, we will ask for final cleaning. Let's see if I have it right here. Final cleaning of the whole workspace. And so what you can do is you can take the click for detail that I just showed you, and actually you can go ahead and go to line item edit options and go add item info note. That'll add that whole click for detail to that line item. And then I can copy and paste whatever I would like to copy and paste out of there and use on a separate line item, save it as a note template. You can do that as well. Really helpful for, pointing out that this is a roof stock price. A lot of times they will say that something is when you have hand delivery that shouldn't be paid for. Well, it says in the removal and replacement of shingles that it's a roof stock price that they have sourced. Those kinds of things. I love adding the line item note to those kinds of line items. So lastly, I did want to go over, so you've got just the overall intent of Xactimate. The reason we use it is because it's the same, used by 85% of insurance companies, and we want to use the same pricing, yada, yada. Let's go over reprice really quick, and then I'll give you a breakdown of the 3 types of documentation that are most effective, and then we'll call it a day. So reprice, basically, I can't go back to January 2024 and buy my gas. Gas may not have been that cheap back then. So, but you get the idea. The insurance company is in your policies. Again, don't talk policy with the adjuster, but I like to talk about the concepts behind the policy. As long, you never want to talk about policy with the homeowner or with the adjuster. You can read. You can be a human being and read a policy and see what's in that but you cannot interpret or guide but as a human being, you can read what's in the policy. Where am I going with that? The policy is intended to identify the insured back to the condition they enjoyed before the loss. So can I go back and buy shingles in January of 2024? I cannot. So the actual responsibility of the policy is to pay for what the cost is incurred at the date of repair. And usually that's written into the policy. There are some funky policies coming out now that have really weird language. And so maybe you're seeing some of those that if they're just absolutely walled reprice. It might be just some policy language that they're throwing in there. Check the declarations page or check the exclusions and see what's going on. Because a lot of the policies are also excluding overhead and profit. So you have to watch out for that as well. So it all goes back to, you can't go buy shingles. The cost incurred is today's pricing. I can't go back and purchase labor from January 2020. I can't go back, yada, yada. So using the example of groceries, I would love to go back and buy eggs in January of 2024. That would be cool, but I can't. And so I have to purchase the material in today's labor and pricing. Again, that might be something that would throw a red flag in exact analysis. So if they're really pushing back, I will find different line items for them to pay. General labor and cleanup. If there's anything that you had to disconnect and move away from the home, any of that labor is not included in the removal and replacement of shingles. For drywall interior work, we have the contents category. We can move out a room's worth of stuff. All this stuff would have to be moved out if you're going to, replace the drywall back here. So same thing with roofing. We just don't talk about it. You don't use a line item. You just say, they say it's included, and you go, oh, okay, it's not. So those are the kinds of things that you can start to think of. What were the actions that I took on this job? And then you need to document them, which is where I want to go next, using 3 types of documentation: photos, code, and then any manufacturer's specifications, code requirements, all of that. That's what's going to help you. There was an instance where the shower pan was not damaged, but the damage on the interior came from, the roof leaked. There was a tree on the house, damaged the surround, like a plastic. There's a PVC, whatever that plastic surround is. Didn't damage the shower pan, but because the surround was tied into that shower pan. Shower pans are very expensive to remove and replace when they're in the slab. It's like the slab situation. But because that surround interfaced with that pan, the manufacturer said, if that surround's damaged, you're going to have to swap out the pan. Same thing with Velux skylights. There's some letters out there that Velux can provide for you that if the cladding is damaged, they don't want you replacing that cladding. They want you to remove and replace the whole skylight. So that's the kind of manufacturer specifications. There's a lot of GAF and Owens Corning and all of that that can back you up with space decking and things like that as well. And then code is king. So it's photos first. Let's get your photo. Visual evidence is undisputed. It'd be very hard for me to fraudulently, I would have to put this into some kind of wizardry Adobe Photoshop program to make these 3 tabs magically look like laminate. No, these are easy to see that this is a laminate shingle roof that they paid for 3 tab on. Just an inexperienced adjuster. Something happened here. And then unequivocally, that's a laminate style roof existing on the home. That's why you also want to get collateral damage photos. So I would want close-ups of these flashings of how they are actually nailed or adhered to the roof. So once I pull out the shingle, what's going to happen to that flashing? Consequential damage says pull out that nail from that shingle or that nail that's holding that flashing in. Now the flashing is damaged because I need to get to the shingles that are at these locations. So if I could show that, this is okay. I mean, I could zoom in and circle. Actually, you need to pull up the shingle to show. Anyhow, most people won't take the time to do that. And you can think of consequential damage and then prove things through collateral damage. That's the other thing a lot of contractors won't take the time to do, is to simply take a picture of each elevation. For this one, I have the front elevation, but I don't have front, right, rear, or left. If I had those collateral damage, you can see here, there's some hail hits here to the siding and the corner posts there. If I had front, right, rear, and left, and I could say, you know what, look, the storm hit the front elevation, but the other elevations are untouched. Obviously, this hail is attributed to the storm that approached from the northeast on September 25th. I have a storm report here showing greater than half-inch size hail was dropping near this address. It's like you're building, like I said, you're building a court case, right? And therefore, since I could show collateral damage, if it did that much damage and that was the size of the hail, this roof obviously would be toast. A lot of people also can use collateral damage if you knew how to take your photos right, to show, if it did this much damage to the siding, the roof, I mean, should be much more damage as well, even if you don't do those trades, if you don't do siding or gutters. Yeah, the photos, I mean, they're better, honestly, than a lot of the photos I see from contractors. But just like here, like, you know what? Zoom in and show me. What are you looking at there, bud? Is it the step flashing? What's going on there? And just going through and unequivocally showing visually what you're looking for. We would need some, they should have called out that the fasteners are going through the shingles here. When I pull up those shingles, what's going to happen with that flashing? Because IRC code says I can't reuse it. All these different types of things. Valley metal wasn't paid for. Ice and water was needed. So anyways, I can talk all day about what's missing, but photos are king. Then you want to go with code. And then you're going to want to go to a third, like a manufacturer's spec or something like that. And then also, don't forget, you can email pricing@verisk.com and ask them specific questions. I email them all the time. If I don't know what this gravity vent is and Exactimate, I'm like, what would you use for this? And get their opinion. Also getting the waste and steep charges for shingles, having them, how was that intended? How was that designed? When you ask questions like that, though, be sure you make it very... not combative. So, hey, I'm just wondering, like, what would you use for this? Provide a photo, provide a description from the manufacturer. Hey, what's the intent behind not my adjuster's saying that this is this and blah, blah, blah. No. It's not like we're trying to be fraudulent in any way, not let the Verisk know what we're trying to do. I just want to know, as an independent estimator, what should I do? What's the intent behind this program? And that's what has been affected for us in the past, and it just helps inform the adjuster. This is the intent of what the way the program should be used. So anyways, Tim, you had a quote today from a book, $1 Billion Bullseye. Yeah. No code, no estimate, or you can no code and then you'll know your estimate. I love that. That's a great quote, Tim. That was over on Facebook. If you're YouTube, people can't see it. So yeah, if you know your numbers and you know your business, or you could not know your numbers and not know your business. That's two different types of business people. Tim is saying same thing with code and estimating. If you don't know code and you don't know estimating, you're going to be this side of the profitability equation. If you know code and you know your estimate, you can be very successful. One last thing I'm going to put is a little pitch for One Click Code. There are friends over there that provide code reports that are fantastic. They're becoming one of the industry's best resources for getting, a lot of adjusters are now listening, getting used to looking at one-click codes. So this is another third party that, hey, I didn't make up this rule. I'm not making it up. That's, skip decking is not kosher versus via the IRC code. One-click code will delineate all of that out for you and tells you the correct sales tax for the area, what's required by the municipality, what's not. So let them know that Estimate Mastery sent you if you go over there, and they'll give you some kind of spiff or some kind of a discount on your first report or something like that. So that's it for me for tonight. I did want to let you know that we do have always invitation for anyone that's watching enroll to go ahead and click this link that I'm going to drop down below. If you're more interested in becoming a part of our coaching and having us personally coach you through these types of things, that's what we do here at Estimate Mastery, is we coach contractors and get you paid. We also write 2 estimates for you to show you. As an example, that one that I've been going over has been a member's actual estimate that we wrote up for them, and we're currently helping them get it paid. We haven't heard back yet on this file, so I can't give you real world results yet. I'll check in next week and see if we can get some, see what the adjusters say on this particular State Farm one. But if you're interested in seeing what we do, that's a short little survey that'll let us know who you are, and then you can book a call with our team. And we can see if we'd be of any help to you and help you be more profitable in this storm season and help you kill it in 2025. So thanks everybody for being here. And I'll be back next week with another topic. I'm trying this year to walk you through the whole insurance process. So I began this stint of Facebook Lives with onboarding the homeowner. And now we have the original statement of loss done. We've written our supplement and we've submitted it. So I'm just walking you through the process. So I think next week we will probably go over another estimate just for fun. And yeah, just loved everybody that was here with us today. Thank you so much. I saw a lot of you pop in and out, and Belinda and Tim and Oscar was here with us. Just like to give a shout out. to you. And Brendo's here as well. So anyhow, hope you guys have a great week in your business. And I will be back next Tuesday with another estimate to look over. So I'll see you then.